So, what has our favourite Chinese multi-hyphenate coriander lover been up to this week? Find out on the YIBO Weekly. Well, it's been a week. It's been a week, like in the world, and there's no appearances to tell you about this week for Wang Yibo, but there is actually lots of news. There's quite a few brand things, including a brand new endorsement and YIBO's Lacoste personal range was launched, but we'll get to that with brand stuff. We'll talk about some other things first. So the two kind of biggish pieces of news are both things that were kind of came out of left of field, or sort of like were talked about by other people, not announced by any kind of official thing, but they seem to both be legit. So the first was there was an interview published with the lead on the glacier project that YIBO was a part of, a UN-sponsored scientific expedition, scientific and science communication expedition earlier in the year. As part of it, they talked about Wang Yibo. It wasn't like about Wang Yibo, but he was mentioned because he was an important part of the whole deal, because it was like a science, as I said, partly at least a science communication exercise. That's why there was all the cameras and everything. And his involvement led to, a huge engagement with the project. But the interviewer sounded somewhat skeptical about YIBO's kind of like presence there. And the explorer, the science guy that was leading it, had nothing but praise for YIBO. Talked about the fact that 20 odd people started the expedition and only 8, I think it was, made it to the summit, and YIBO was one of them. Talked about the fact that YIBO suffered altitude sickness and pushed through, continuing to climb. Talked about the fact that YIBO was consulted about some choices about different routes, and said, and his response to it was that he wasn't there as a hobby. It wasn't about having a fun time. He was there for the glacier preservation, and the choices should be made based on what was best for the project, not and I was crying reading the interview because he's not a perfect human being, none of us are, but his instincts are so good sometimes. Anyway, so I'll link to an English translation of the interview in the links if you want to go and read it and have a cry yourself. But that was one thing that happened during the week. Another thing that came out sideways this week is somebody mentioned in an interview, YIBO has been granted an International Class D racing license. And I, of course, had no idea what that was, but I've now done some reading. The D class is not in itself, it doesn't open up that many doors, but it's like the entry level. You need to hold a D class international racing license for 12 months. And in that 12-month period, you need to take part in a certain number of events with a certain level of results in order to qualify for a Class C license. And once you have a Class C license, there are actually a huge number of international events, international racing events that you can, take part in. And all of the sort of racing that YIBO's done thus far, none of these licenses are required. The only reason to pursue this, taking out the Class D, is that he is intending to pursue this. He's intending to, do more racing, hopefully get the results to get a Class C license, and then be able to like actually race in proper international rallies and things. So it's an indication that he is actually quite serious about the racing, about pursuing the racing. So that's very interesting. And more on the racing side, because he does have another event coming up early next week. There's a 8-hour endurance race, which is a different style of thing that he's done before. It's in Shanghai. And he's confirmed to be in the team lineup for UNO. And there is a new driver has been announced. Is going to be joining them. There's going to be 4 of them in the car. That they take, shifts in the car because it's an 8-hour thing. But there's a new driver as part of the team. It's a Brazilian professional racing driver. His name is Sergio, something that I cannot remember now. It'll be down below, but he's about YIBO's age. I think he's slightly younger, and he's been racing in competition racing since he was 16. He's been doing this, which is the legal age you're allowed to start in Brazil. He's been doing it a lot. I was like looking through his Wikipedia page, and it was funny actually thinking about him compared to YIBO, because they both started at quite a similar age. They've both been doing what they do for quite a long time. And I wonder how much they will, have to kind of, what sort of connection. It's also interesting that he's Brazilian, vaguely in my kind of, YIBO addled brain, because Woods, who is an ex-bandmate of YIBO's, he went to Brazil. He lived in Brazil and trained in Brazil because before he went into music, he was actually pursuing professional football as a career option as a young person, and did that from Brazil. And then because of the Brazil connection, UNIQ, one of their, international trips while they were still promoting together was they went to Brazil. So there's this Brazil connection. That's sort of fun. Anyway, before I finish with the whole racing dealio, I will just mention, Racing put out during the week, they put out quite a slick package that's like a short documentary, 10 minutes or so long, looking at the first race of the season this year, which was one that YIBO was part of. And they put it out with Chinese and English subtitle. I put that up on my channel, so you can go and have a look at it if you haven't yet. It's quite fun, and that's the racing news. Apart from the racing and the mountaineering, what else is there? CCTV, in the run-up to National Day holiday, which is it's National Day today in China, October the 1st. It's the beginning of the Golden Week holiday. So because it's Mid-Autumn Festival next Monday, all the days between now and then are all holidays. In the lead up to the holiday, CCTV ran YIBO TV. I don't know how long they've been doing it for. They did it last year. And they did it again in March this year, and now they've done it for a few days this week in the run-up to the National Day holiday. And that is, they just run this loop of YIBO songs playing, and it's like an hour-ish long loop. It finishes and then they play it again. This time around, it's the same loop as it was in March, which I'm a little bit disappointed for, because in March they added new songs from the time before that they'd done it, but no new songs this time, exactly the same lineup as at the beginning of the year. Who knows, in 6 months' time they might do it again with a few new songs. That'd be nice. But I also one of the most ridiculous things I've ever done on YouTube, I took a screen recording of it. I actually took a screen recording of it because it ran for a number of days. I took a screen recording of it a couple of times, and the first 2 times I had internet problems, and so the recording stuttered. And I'm like 40 minutes into recording this, and suddenly the screen's frozen. Like, how? But anyway, the third time that I tried, I finally got a full loop without my internet crapping out. So that was awesome. And I've whacked that up as well with timestamps of the song, so I can go back and look at it just for myself and a couple of friends. But if you're interested in seeing YIBO TV, it's up on my channel now forever, or until the copyright strikes take it down. Two more things, then we're going to brand stuff. One and only. Oh my goodness. This movie, it just keeps on keeping on. One and only, which is, it's been 2 years now since this thing first, premiered in China. This past week, it opened in cinemas in Taiwan. See? Cross Straits Harmony. So One and Only, finding one last place to show. I hope they've made a mozza on that movie. They've played that movie everywhere. The last thing I'll say before brand stuff, yesterday afternoon, Exploring the Unknown with Wang YIBO, the official Weibo account of the show, posted about an upcoming event where new media properties get announced. So nothing was actually promised in the post, but I can't think of any reason why Exploring the Unknown would be promoting this conference, which is a whole bunch of announcements of new shows, if they weren't going to be announcing a show. So I think it's pretty solid that the season 2 is close. It's close. It's coming soon. So that is all excitement. And that brings us up to brand stuff. The two big pieces of brand news this week are the new endorsement for White Elephant Foods. I don't really know anything about them. I never heard of them before. All of their promotion this week that I've seen, and there's been a few elements of it, all of it that I've seen is promoting a specific product. They must make more than this, but they have gone all in on their coriander flavored noodles. So they're like instant ramen pots that you pour in hot water and whatever. And then, but it comes with sachets of, looks like fresh. That can't be true. Freeze-dried, maybe, coriander that you sprinkle on the top. So you get your coriander-flavored noodles that are vaguely green, and then you add more coriander at the end. And, of course, everybody and their dog knows that Wang YIBO loves coriander. He loves noodles, and he loves coriander. Cilantro is the other name for this if, for whatever reason you don't know. But coriander is what we call it in Australia. And yes, they had pictures of the product, pictures of YIBO with the product, video of YIBO with the product. They had this huge video which seemed to be actual footage, but one can never know for certain anymore because the world is broken. Seemed to be actual footage of an enormous field of coriander plants. They took out parts of it to create art to be seen from drones from above of YIBO's name and a great big heart. And so they made this installation land art on this field of coriander and for Wang YIBO. Because he loves coriander. It's hilarious. Anyway, links to all of that stuff below. White Elephant Foods makes endorsement number 32. That's ridiculous, but there we are. The other big brand launch this week was the Lacoste from YIBO collection. It is a capsule wardrobe with a number of hats, with a few tops, a number of pairs of pants, a white t-shirt. There's a pink hoodie, a black bucket hat, and a black jacket are like some of the eye-catching parts of it, but there's each of them has little details and some sort of embroidery on it which says from YIBO, so it's all very exciting. It was released online and in physical stores in China on the 29th. In the run-up, they didn't say it was just going to be in China. They said it was being released on the 29th, and lots of people were very excited. And then on the 29th, there was a video that came out so that it was going to be released in China and then throughout Asia Pacific in October. And after sort of a few back and forth, it turns out that they're not, even though it's their global brand ambassador, they're not planning, as far as I can tell, to release it more broadly than in China and then in the Asia Pacific. So I am soon to find out whether, for Lacoste purposes, Australia counts as Asia Pacific. I'm not super confident. However, like what I've heard is that almost all of the lower price items have sold out completely in China. So that the hats, for example, are all gone. Yeah. And like the jumper was like $300 or something. So maybe it's just as well that they've sold out. I don't know. They do look gorgeous, and that is a thing that happened this week. I am sure you'll hear if the promotion goes more broadly later on. The other big promotion that was launched this week was the Jeans West launched their new season's promotion, new season's collection. And they had 1 million photos of YIBO in the new collection, looking gorgeous, and the world's cutest advertisement with YIBO in this like ice house and a little penguin with a backpack, and he's like trying to find a penguin, and the penguin's leading him astray different places, and it was just too cute for words. So well done, Jeans West. Well done. A couple of other things to mention as far as brand stuff this week. There was a Petchoin ad launching a new sort of collaboration that they are doing with the Palace Museum. I presume it's like the Forbidden Palace in Beijing that they're talking about. But there was a piece of short video with YIBO in that where a bird from a tapestry or something comes to life and perches on his hand, and that was also quite striking. A few other things. There was a LifeSpace promo. There was a voice message came out from Master Kong's iced tea and a couple of other smaller things, but that's the main stuff that I've talked about. I'll put links down below. So just before I finish up, a couple of big things coming up. YIBO is strongly rumoured to be going to Paris for the Loewe fashion show on October the 3rd. All I can tell you for certain is that when he posted at midnight last night, or this morning, for the beginning of the National Day holiday, he posted on his Weibo, and he did so from Beijing, so he hasn't left yet. So that's possibly, I think everybody's expecting that to happen, but I don't. As far as I know, there's been no official announcement, so we'll just wait and see. The other thing that there has been official announcements for is the race in Shanghai, which is starting on the 6th. So if he's in Paris for the 3rd, it's going to be pretty tight getting back to Shanghai for the 6th. But the big race in Shanghai next week, that is what we're looking for. Next time I speak to you, there should be 1 million new photographs of Wang YIBO out in the wild. So that's something exciting to look forward to. But that is all I have for you today. I'm going to put a little bit of the penguin video to finish us out, and links down below. I hope you're well, and I hope you have a wonderful Wang YIBO Wednesday.
他悄悄留下线索， 像在邀请我探寻。他的世界安静又遥远，却刚好成就一段惊喜旅程。